I'm joined with Britt Baker. Hi, Britt. How are you?
Hey, Samantha. Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so excited for our chat today. And for those of you watching the YouTube video, Britt looks so cool with her awesome backdrop. So I like to start the episodes by pulling a card. And today I'm going to do The Universe Has Your Back by Gabby Bernstein. And so a card could be for me or for you. It could inform the episode or not. Or it could just be a message to someone listening who needs to hear this. Or none of those. Or all of those. Okay. Ooh. My outer experiences are my outer my outer experiences are a reflection of my inner condition.
Oh my gosh, that is so perfect for our talk today.
Yeah, how so?
Well, I mean, just to dive right into it, the way we talk about money at Dow Janes is that so much of your experience with money is based on how you feel about money. So that nothing can change until your relationship to finances changes.
Yeah. Oh, what a perfect card.
What a perfect card. Yeah.
Oh, I love that philosophy around money too. And I guess before we dive in, can you say what Dow Janes is?
Absolutely. So Dow Janes is a financial education company. We exist to get more money in the hands of more empowered people. We teach everything from how to get out of debt, how to save for retirement, how to invest, but all of it begins with addressing the stories and relationships we have around money, because all of us inherit some sort of story and some way of relating that usually needs to be addressed before you can address any of the tangible pieces.
Yeah, that's so true. And I feel like as I'm going on my own kind of financial empowerment or financial health journey, I'm really noticing the beliefs that I can't handle money well, or that like having money is selfish, even like charging money is selfish. And so I'm realizing it's a lot more than just money in my mind. There's so much that's wrapped up in that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Money is one of those things that, should be neutral. We talk about it being, it's a medium of exchange. Like, why don't we think about money the way we think about like bananas? And yet there's so much power and story and beliefs that we have around money and what it means and what it says about us.
Yeah. Wow. And so where do those stories usually come from?
I mean, generally they come from the people who raised us. We see how they interact with money, and it's inherited. And then, of course, it comes from your culture and your society. How are people talking about money around you? It comes from the media, like how is money perceived? How do we perceive other people with money? That shapes our beliefs.
Wow. I never thought about that last one, how we perceive people with money.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many people out there who are like, money it's greedy to have money, or people with money are evil just because of, who they end up seeing, or, what they believe billionaires are doing with their money. And, there's so many other people we don't see who are doing great things with money.
Yeah. Oh, I love that perspective. How do you typically work with people to shift that mindset?
So a lot of the work we do, so it's built into our program. So $1 Million a Year is our year-long program. And there's step one, which we'll talk about later, but step two is called heal. And that's where you really address your relationship to money. And so we have a lot of different exercises really to figure out your subconscious ways that you relate to money. So what are the words that come to mind quickly when you think about money, and just kind of realizing that is what's ingrained in you. And then one of the really powerful exercises, there's two really powerful exercises I love that we do. And these, anyone could do these at any time. The first is to write a letter to money. So start, dear money, and then just let it free flow, see what comes. And in this letter, are you feeling grateful? Are you feeling apologetic? Are you feeling angry? Like, what are the emotions that come up when you write this letter to money, as if it were, a letter to a loved one or an ex, whatever the feeling is. So that's a great one, is the letter to money exercise. And the second exercise is coming up with your new money persona. So who do you want to be when you relate to money? And really acknowledging that there may have been who you've been in the past, whether it's I got myself into a lot of credit card debt, or I've always overspent, or I've never known how much money I had, and then becoming this new money persona, giving them a name, and then talking about what they do differently. So, mine bountiful Britt, and like she's, gives money freely to charities and tracks her spending each month, whatever the habits and practices are, as well as the mindset and how does this new money persona feel about money.
Oh, that is so, so cool. And is that something that you had to embark on as well, is doing your own uncovering and healing and rewiring?
Yes. I mean, everything in the program, Lorianne and I went through ourselves. Personally, I always had a scarcity mindset growing up, no matter how much money there was, I was always scared there wasn't enough. And that was just ingrained from, poverty mentality of grandparents, people who, came through the Depression. And so really working my own, both letters to money and money persona to get into a place of feeling, there's enough and it's okay and I'm safe. Really believing that.
Oh, that's beautiful. And your program is called the $1 Million Year?
Exactly.
Wonderful. That's actually how I heard about you. I have a friend, we met on the winter solstice for the full moon, or around the full moon. It wasn't exactly on it. And she was telling us that she was enrolling in this really cool money program that lasted a year by these really amazing two women. And so I was like, oh, I have to check them out. So I love that I'm hearing about this program from you and from her.
Wow. I love that you found us through her.
Yeah. And she was saying that it's really empowering, and kind of shared what you said about really unpacking her beliefs about money, which I think is so beautiful, and also like really emotionally charged as well.
Yeah, it's one of the hardest steps, that and budgeting. But it's a step that people, you can get stuck on it. There can be trauma that comes up. There can be realizations of, what your life has been like, that it's not easy work. And I commend the people who get through it. And it's also so important. There's plenty of money programs out there that just like jump right into budgeting, and people wonder, why budgeting has never worked for them, or, why they haven't gotten their finances in order yet. And it's because they skip this first step and they just jump straight to trying to get to the solution without unpacking the emotions involved.
Oh, it's beautiful. And speaking of emotions, I feel like one of the main ones I have around money is really shame that I don't know something, or shame that I'm not good at having a budget. Is that something that comes up for a lot of people as well?
Oh my gosh, all of the time. Yeah, shame's one of those. It's the word we use a lot and speak to a lot, especially in the beginning, because there is so much shame, and it's it makes sense. None of us were ever taught this, and it's something that is so essential to life. Like having money to get through to, pay rent and buy groceries is necessary. And so if we don't have the fundamental understanding of how money works, there's a lot of shame around it. And what we try to do, both in our free webinar training as well as in the actual program, is really just give people a break. It's not your fault that you are wherever you are right now. If you're in thousands of dollars of debt, it's not your fault. You likely weren't taught these things. You probably never learned how to use a credit card. The financial system is not easy to navigate on one's own. And we really, we created this program to basically bring financial education to everyone.
Oh, I love that. And the thing with shame is that it keeps you so stuck. So if I don't know something about money, I feel shame about it, which means I'm not learning about it. Or when I make a mistake, I feel so shameful, and so I just stop. And also the thing about shame is that it leaks into other areas of our life. And that's why I think financial wellness is a part of your health. Because if you're feeling shame about your finances, like that shame travels to other areas of your life as well. And so I really think that this is a part of holistic health. And that's why I think it's so important that you're here.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just to speak to that even further, I don't know if you've heard of the hierarchy of emotions, but shame is at the very bottom. And it's because this, exactly what you said, when you're in a place of shame, you're stuck. You can't get out of that until you release the shame, because it's too much about, it's almost like this little like self-perpetuating dark hole that you stay stuck in when there's shame present. And really, forgiving yourself, releasing that is the only way you can like move up and out of the feeling towards change, towards any sort of positive change.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you mentioned budgeting, and people don't understand why they have such a hard time with budgeting. And I very selfishly want to ask you to expand on that.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one of the main reasons is that, besides the, not addressing the emotions piece, which we've covered, and the other piece is that most people think of budgeting as this restrictive exercise. Like I only have like $24 to spend on movies this month, or whatever the category is. And people get really focused on like the dollar amount for the category and having it be this fixed thing that, they can't spend more than that. And really what people learn when they get into it, and the way that we teach it in our program, is it's fluid. Budgeting is super fluid. It changes all the time. It changes every day. And how you spend money, based on how you spend money in a day, you can then move your categories around. So I overspent on groceries. Okay, not a big deal. What am I going to pull from? What am I going to not spend as much on this month because I just spent more on groceries than I planned to? Yeah. And it's really, budgeting more than anything is about conscious spending. It's about knowing how you're spending your money, what you're spending it on, and is that what you want to be spending it on? So it's bringing a level of awareness to, am I spending money on what I care about, on things that are in line with my values? And, can I actually afford it? Like, does this fit within, how much I'm making each month and how much I want to be saving? Yeah. The way we simplify it, if, a lot of people get stuck in how much do I spend on, this category, that, and we simplify it with a 50-30-20 budget. And what that means is you spend 50% of your income on needs, 30% on wants, and you save 20% of your budget, of your income each month. And so that's a really, a simplified version of a budget. But if you stick to that, you're set. You're golden, because if you're saving 20%, that's really taking care of future you. And so then everything else you just try to fit into the buckets.
Yeah. Oh, I love what you just said about saving takes care of future you. And that's you can say like, do I have to buy a house, or like I have to do this, and like very rigid and like fitting into what's expected of you. Or you can tap into like all that love and compassion that comes at looking at your life, like both before this moment, but also into your future self. And that's almost like a very spiritual practice as well, to send that future version of yourself that compassion and that security.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And to remember that, like, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to think of it as a sacrifice. It's not that you're sacrificing right now. It's really that you're taking care of your future self.
Oh, I love that. And even when you were saying like, oh, I only have $24 to spend on movies or whatever, even in my mind, a simple switch would be, oh my gosh, I have $24 just to spend on movies this month. Like, I feel like you can do a little reframe there and think, oh, how lucky am I? And it's kind of like switching from scarcity to abundance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's reminding me of one of the exercises we have people do is track their spending for a month. They track every time they spend money, how much it was, what it was on. And then the extra exercises is categorizing whether they feel positive, negative, or neutral about that spending experience. Yeah. And the ways that we have seen people shift from something that they felt negative about to it becoming something that they feel positive about through the course of the program and through these reframes is remarkable. So it's like, at one case, they spend, $300 on healthcare, and that feels negative. And then as they go through this program and take on a gratitude approach when it comes to their finances and full clarity on their financial picture, it becomes, I spend $300 on healthcare and I have incredible access to doctors whenever I need them. And I can afford this part of my paycheck. I can afford this with my paycheck, and it's, taking care of myself. And all of a sudden they feel positive about it.
Oh, I love that. And I love what you just said about the very, very simple act of tracking your spending. I feel like awareness is really the thing that pushes us into any conscious decision making or action. And I know you mentioned conscious spending. I was wondering if you could maybe elaborate on not only what that is, but why it's so important.
Yeah. So conscious spending is just paying attention, exactly like you just said. It's paying attention to what you're spending your money on rather than just doing it mindlessly. So rather than just swiping the credit card and not paying attention to like, where did this good come from? Was it made in a way that I believe in? Am I supporting an organization that, has values that are similar to mine? That's where conscious spending starts to begin, is really paying attention to, the phrase we use is voting with your dollar. We have power as consumers, and how we choose to spend our money has an influence on the political landscape. And so if you choose to spend your money on, organic food or whatever your thing is, that is voting on what you care about. And so aligning your values with how you're spending is a way of conscious spending.
Oh, I love that. And I feel like that active tracking too, for myself, I'll notice, oh geez, I spend a lot of money on stuff I don't care about. And then this is maybe a too personal of an example, but I'm going to go for it. I realized I had underwear with holes in them and not enough socks, but I was like going to Starbucks all the time. And I was like, okay, like that doesn't add up. I think I need underwear over like a latte that actually doesn't make me feel good.
Yeah. Okay, this is a totally unsponsored promotion, but have you checked out Nikki?
No.
Knickey? It is the best underwear.
Hint, hint, Nikki.
It's so comfortable. A friend just told me about it and she raved about it in an email. And so I tried. I was like, I got to try it based on that endorsement. And I'm obsessed.
Ooh, this just in. Oh, that's funny. So I want to touch on what you said about values as well. And I feel like I learned this concept when it came to the amount of stuff that we have in our house and if the stuff is aligning with our values. But I feel like the stuff that we buy and how does that align with our values really impacts me as well. And just with the like underwear example, like I value taking good care of myself, but I wasn't like my dollars didn't affect or didn't mirror my values, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, and this happens to a lot of people. We have this exercise where you do this audit of, how have I been spending my money and what does that say about what I value? And then what do I actually value? And so we have people come up with their top 5 values. What are the things that, at the end of the day matter to you more than anything else? And then you go through an exercise of, okay, if you were to live fully in alignment with these values, what would you be doing differently? So if it's, for example, you care about the environment, are you going to keep buying packages off Amazon? Or if it's just really kind of beginning to question the way that you both live in the world and use your money to try to get to be more in alignment with the things that you care about. And there are free ways, it doesn't always have to be about buying or spending money. There's free ways to live in alignment with your values. So it's like, okay, my value is health. Am I going to, walk to work instead of taking a cab? There tend to be economic implications of the choices we make. Walking is free and good for your health.
Yeah.
There's ways to just kind of do like a life audit of how in line with my values am I right now.
Ooh, I love that. And I feel like I love what you and your partner do is really marry like self-compassion in this process as well. Because I think it can be so easy to be like, oh, I've been wasting all this money when I could have been buying underwear. And like, we just feel so down on ourselves. But I love that you really weave in that self-compassion.
Yeah. I mean, everything you've done up to now was for a reason. And so it's, there's nothing wrong with all the lattes. Maybe it's what had you start this incredible podcast.
So jazzed. So much energy. Oh, I love that. I actually was when I was starting my own debt journey, that's how I was looking at it as well. It's like, I don't hate this debt because for whatever reason, it allowed me to go to school and it allowed me to like maybe overspend on books, but those books really enriched my life. And like now I don't see that debt as something I have to pile on to. I don't want to continue it anymore, but I'm really grateful for where it's gotten me.
Yes, that reminds me of, a phrase we say in the $1 Million Year is let the numbers be numbers. So, you have $26,000 of debt. That means nothing about you. It's just a number. Or your net worth is negative 30,000 because of you haven't saved anything and you have debt. It means nothing about you as a person. It's just a fact. It's just a number. We can address it so much easier when it's outside of ourselves rather than something that's really about us.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I feel like this kind of leads into this topic, but I think this was your idea to touch on, which is financial empowerment or financial health as a spiritual practice. And I love that so much. I was wondering if you could expand on that.
I mean, we could go in so many different directions with this. So yeah, financial health, financial wellness, it feels like it's a term that's kind of gaining ground. We think of, financial care as self-care. Taking care of your money is taking care of you. We put financial care in the same bucket as like washing your face and brushing your teeth. It's, it's essential. It's essential to life. And as, most people will view this practice as, something that's tedious or a chore or, really difficult to get through. And what we do in the $1 Million Year is really flip that idea on its head and think about how can we make this practice feel like taking a bath? How can taking care of your money feel like the evening that you look forward to? So we have a practice called the weekly money ritual, where the idea is that you create a space that's really pleasurable to your evening or your morning, whenever you do it. So you light candles or pull a card or pour your favorite tea or chocolate, and sit down and then go through this checklist of things to like take care of your finances. And when your favorite candle is lit while you're doing it and you're playing like an upbeat playlist, looking at your bank account becomes so much more tolerable than this like trudging through type of activity or this thing that we only do around tax time or only do when we have to pay bills. Really trying to bring a positive reframe and a shift in our thinking of how we think about taking care of money.
Oh, wow. And I love that because not only does that make that moment pleasurable and enjoyable and bearable, but it also like starts to rewire how you think of money, because soon you're going to associate that pleasurable experience plus the like outcome that comes from that. And that's what you're going to associate with money. So that's really, really cool.
Exactly. Yeah. That rewiring is key. We have people who actually say each week that they look forward. They're like, I can't wait for my weekly money ritual.
How beautiful.
Yeah.
So cool. And I bet it feels so wonderful to be able to look at these people whose lives you're touching, because you mainly work with women and non-binary people. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Wow. And why was it so important for you to work with this group of people?
Yeah. I mean, it's an easy question. Or easy answer. The financial industry, for so long has been dominated by both men and masculine energy. It was it's often said it's a world created by men for men. That's just what it's felt like for so long. Not just felt like, but in actuality, women couldn't get credit cards until a few decades ago. We couldn't get credit in our own names. We still actually pay more to get a loan than our male counterparts. So there's ways in which we've just been, fighting an uphill battle when it comes to finances as the non-dominant gender. And so it really felt important for us to create a space that felt really safe and really comfortable to talk about money, to bring up vulnerable emotions and questions when it comes to money, and have that be, a community of like-minded people who have felt similarly about not having this education necessarily growing up.
And
There's
how empowering. Oh, no, go ahead.
There's a stat. This one is the one I find most surprising. Not most, there's so many. But that parents are more likely to talk to their sons about finances than their daughters. And exactly, it's like, it's not even intentional. Parents wouldn't do that if they knew they were doing it, but that's just what happens. And so, we're having to level the playing field when it comes to education.
Wow. And what a service you're doing too. It's not just changing that person's life or that group of people's lives. They start empowering themselves with money, and they teach that to their friends or their spouses or their coworkers and their children. And so this one class, or even your free services, your one video has a huge ripple effect. That's so powerful.
Yeah, I love the stories of the women who are like, my daughter watches the videos with me, or, my son really wants to invest now. It's like, there is this ripple effect of, when you learn it, when people are excited about a topic, they just can't help but teach it to others.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I started a podcast. That and the lattes, of course. And I love too, this is a little side note, but I love that you all have different tiers of information. So you can find so much free information on your YouTube, and you also have the 5 days or 5 steps to getting out of debt. So I just really, really appreciate that about you as well.
Thank you. Yeah, we try to put as much free content out there as we can. We have our Instagram, we have our YouTube. Yeah. Our website has some free resources on it. And there's a ton of free content out there for the people who are self-motivated and willing to get through it. And we just know that it's hard. This stuff's hard to be self-motivated about, or really know the steps to do things in. And so that was a big piece of creating the $1 Million Year, was giving people bite-sized pieces, step-by-step instruction. So you just feel like your hand is held the entire time. There's accountability to keep you, on track and doing it. And really, that was the main piece of starting it, was wanting it to feel kind of like a big hug as you're tackling your finances.
Oh, I love that. And you mentioned there's a sense of community in your program as well. Is that right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We have this super active Facebook group where, we wanted to make it a space where, again, talking about money is, not only encouraged, but totally expected.
Yeah.
And so we have people sharing I got a raise, or I was able to negotiate my debt, or, other wins in the community that really encourage and inspire each other to do similar things.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, that's cool. And I'm sure it's a lot easier to do that when you have a community of people who are also struggling and also succeeding along with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. To feel especially generally people who are socialized as women, we learn with each other. We learn it through conversation. We learn through talking. It's just a really common way that we tend to learn. And so having a community of people who are going through this journey with you is, it's as valuable as the teaching.
Yeah. Oh, and I love that you made that point about really masculine energy as well. Because when I would always try and approach my finances, it was from the masculine money guy point of view of you're a piece of shit, and this is what you did wrong, and you just need to be more disciplined. And it just it just felt so overwhelming. And also you get that energy everywhere else too. It wasn't really enjoyable to put myself through. So I love that you approach it from this beautiful, fluid, flowy, feminine energy space.
Thank you. Yeah, I do want to say there's plenty of masculine energy in the course with our workbooks and checklists and structure. But absolutely, we do bring a much softer approach to it all.
Well, you need that balance. So you do
Need the
need
balance.
that structure and discipline.
Yeah,
It's not shaming you along the way.
exactly. Shame-free structure.
Oh, I love that. And you mentioned talking about money and why that's so important. Why do you think we are so weird about talking about money as a society?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, what's the phrase that, the things you don't talk about at dinner? Sex, money, and politics.
Yeah.
We've been trained from a very young age, and it's not appropriate. And, it's not appropriate sometimes. And, for a good reason, like sometimes it isn't the right thing to talk about. But when it's completely off limits, it becomes something that you're then trying to, figure out on your own, and not being able to talk about, our questions around money, or, like, how are you investing, or what, have you heard about any cool opportunities, or have you found a way to like lower your student loan debt? Questions that would, be really helpful to talk about in a forum setting are just generally considered off limits.
Yeah, or even in a workplace, I'm assuming it's okay to tell people what you're making, because that's how we find out if there's a huge pay gap between us as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you mentioned some people in the community were talking about asking for raises. If you were to give someone advice on how to talk about money, like maybe with a boss or in an interview, like how would you empower someone, or what would be the advice for confidence that you would give someone?
Yeah, great question. So we have a whole course on negotiations in the program. It's it's not just the steps of getting your finances in order. It's like everything else about how to enhance your financial life. So negotiations, managing partners and managing finances and partnership, tackling student loans, buying real estate, all the bonuses. But to this specific question of how do you talk about money with a boss, the best advice I would say is to, there's two pieces. One is to have a BATNA. And a BATNA is a negotiation term. It stands for Best Alternative to No Agreement. BATNA. And that is your backup plan. It's your alternative. It's what you're going to do if you don't get this offer, or if you don't get paid what you want to get paid. And it's your biggest leverage in any negotiation. And so if you are applying for a job, or if you have options on the table, the more options you have, the better. And the stronger your alternatives are, the better your negotiation tactic will be, because you have a backup plan. When you go in and you have no other option, you're stuck with what they're going to give you, if you're desperate for this job. So that'd be the first piece, is like, if you're applying for a job, apply to more than one so that you have options and offers to play off of each other. So one is have a strong BATNA. And the second suggestion would be to do your research. So just know, what is the comparable pay in the industry for this level? Have you talked to people who work in similar jobs who you've learned, what's fair for this role, and really knowing both, what your credentials are that you're bringing in, what you should be getting paid, what you would be getting paid in another role, and what other people like you are getting paid.
Oh, that's beautiful. And that made me think of something that's different than what you said. But I remember hearing this a while ago when I was trying to figure out what to charge clients, of like, you can charge for your worthiness and your experience, and you can charge well. And also knowing that your worthiness does not equate to the amount that you're charging, but also that your worthiness does not tie into how much money you have or how much debt you have. And you kind of touched on that as well, but we really do tie our worthiness into money. And it sounds like you really teach that we are worthy no matter what, which I really love.
Yeah, there's this, a friend showed me this song that's on Spotify right now called, oh shoot, I have to find it and send it to you. Something like, "This is why I charge what I charge." And it is so sassy, and it's a must listen to for anyone who sets their own prices. especially any artist, because it's basically like, yeah, here's the price. Like a lot of work went into this. You have no idea. And this is the price. Yeah. The other thing about pricing, and this is, it's probably everyone's biggest challenge who, works for themselves and sets their own prices. It is for us too. And the truth is that you can charge whatever you want. Whatever you want, as long as you're backing it up with what they're going to get for it. Like the $1 million year could be a $10,000 program easily, with the results that people get on the other side of increasing their net worth by 80,000 or paying off $30,000 of debt. Like that is an incredible ROI, incredible return on investment. So it's really, pricing really comes down to marketing and how you talk about the thing that you're selling. And that's, I think, the thing that a lot of people I've talked to, like early entrepreneurs, or especially people who are doing work that's, for the good of other people, it's just, they don't want to charge more because they're like, I want everyone to get this service.
Yeah. Oh, I feel that. And I feel like that's the beautiful thing about having tiers too. Like me and you both have free offerings. So it's like, if you really can't access, if you really can't access that paid content, there is something for everyone, which I feel like that also eases my feeling of, if I'm doing a service to other people, why am I charging for it?
Yeah.
Totally
well, because you have to eat.
That I have to buy.
And you have to sustain yourself so you can keep creating content.
I love that. I want to talk about maybe common misconceptions that women or non-binary people have when they enter your program, and kind of the unprogramming that has to have, or can't talk today. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Common misconceptions. So a big one, I'd say the biggest one, is that people think, which one do I start with? The biggest misconception is that investing is risky. So this we hear over and over and over again. And that it makes sense, the way the market is discussed in the news, it seems incredibly risky. It's going up and down every day. And the stories you hear about are people losing their money. And what I want to flip in this moment is that, investing can be risky depending on the choices you make, but it doesn't have to be. And there are ways to invest over a long period of time that take out a lot of the risk. And the truth is, the way you lose money in the stock market is by taking your money out of the stock market. It's almost always the case. If people get scared when it drops, and so they take their money out, and that's when you lose your money. But if you have patience, and if you know the long-term plan, and if you've taken the steps necessary to be at the place where you're ready to invest, and you can then leave your money invested over the long term.
Yeah.
If you look at the S&P 500 historically, it has always gone up. After every crash, it's always returned to what it was before. And so really the importance of a long-term strategy when you think about investing. And the second, I'll kind of go right into the second misconception because it's related, which is that a lot of people think they're ready to invest right now. They think like, oh, I just saved like $2,000. I want to invest it. And it's because there is a lot of urgency around investing. The sooner you start, the more you can make, the more power of compound interest. But there are two things that you have to have in place before you're ready to invest. The first is that you have to have no high interest rate debt. That means any credit card debt. That means if you have any, loans with an interest rate over 7%, you have to pay those off first. Because if you're investing and paying those off, it's basically like pouring water into a bucket with holes. Like you're not getting anything by investing that money. You're actually better off using that money to pay off your debt, because your debt costs you more than you would make in the stock market. Does that make sense?
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Because, credit card debt has an interest rate of like 20 to 25%, depending on the card, 15 to 30% really. And so that's the interest rate that you're paying. And so interest is really working against you when you have that sort of debt. So you have to get rid of all that first, kind of like clear the slate. That's the first step. The second step is saving an emergency fund, enough money to bail you out in the case of anything going wrong, losing your job, fire, big car accident, whatever the situation, having an emergency fund that you can pull on so that you can keep your money invested once you actually invest, so that you can play that long-term game, not pull it out when the market goes down if you need it, but because you have that emergency fund, you get to keep your money invested.
Oh, wow. That's so helpful. And even when you said the word investing, I went, like I just am trained to think that that's a scary topic. And do you think that the way it's talked about, are we supposed to think it's scary so that we're maybe deterred from doing it?
Yes. I'd say that's, this is, I don't know if everyone would agree with this statement, but there's an entire industry that is built off of helping people invest. And, financial advisors and investment managers, they make billions of dollars by helping people invest. And, the reality when you look at the stats is that most investment advisors are not doing any better than the average stock market performance. And it's because people are, they're scared to do it on their own. They need their hand held. And so they pay these fees that are way more than they need to be paying to learn how to invest. And so, yeah, I think there's some intention in making it feel like something that is scary and you need more support to get through it. Yeah. And, there, of course, is some value in it. There are some people who wouldn't do it on their own otherwise. Like they're just not going to learn it. They want someone else to manage it, or they know themselves and they would try to sell when the market goes down because they're afraid and they really need a manager who's going to say, don't sell, just hold on to this. So there are cases in which I'm sure they are valuable for people, and for the majority of people, you can invest on your own.
Oh, I like that. And something I thought when you were talking about the way that we view investing as risky, it made me think of sex education as well, that we are really taught just about the risks of sex, and sex can be risky when we have risky sex, and investing can be risky when we risk, or when we're acting in a risky way. But there's also like the other side as well.
Yeah, what's the equivalent of use a condom in investing?
Or like
low cost index funds.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
That.
That's funny.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. And maybe you kind of already answered this, so if I'm repeating myself, just tell me. But if someone's starting or listening to this, they're like, okay, this is the year I'm going to pay off my debt, or this is the year I'm going to get into it. What would you tell them? Like, what would you tell an overwhelmed person starting this process?
As like the one step they could take right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the easy step I'm going to give you is go to dowjanes.com and we have a free class online, and it's called Think Like an Investor. And it really just teaches you the mindset, reminds you that it's not your fault, and talks about some of the, the common mistakes and then what you can do to get out. So that's the easy answer. Go to dowjanes.com, watch our webinar. And the second piece is, find a friend, find a mentor, find someone you can talk to about money, because that's where, it all begins, is having just a confidant, having a place to share what's really going on. I have people come to me and they're like, can I just tell you about all the debt I have? Like, I have this home equity loan and I have student loans and I have like $100,000 worth of debt, and I've never told anyone that before. And just saying it, or, saying your intention of like, hey, I really want to buy a house this year. Like, will you hold me accountable to that? Finding a friend, someone who you can talk to about those things, just opens it up energetically to, be the thing that you overcome or that comes true, rather than just keeping it inside.
Oh, I love that. That's so true. And with shame, all you really need to do is voice it, and so much of it is alleviated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's beautiful. And I'm thinking about our card right now too. My outer experiences are a reflection of my internal condition. And Gabby Bernstein has a quote in one of her books, and I might ruin it, but it's like, worry is a prayer for drama, or worry is a prayer for chaos. And so I feel like not that it's our fault if we're stressed about money, because like, of course we are with the society and all the things we've learned, but when we're approaching our finances from that like scattered, scared, scarce, anxious place, I think our money starts to really reflect that as well, in the way that we handle it, and then the way that we handle ourselves as well. So I love that you're also teaching like calm, like it's okay to go one step at a time.
Yeah. There's a great book. I'll have to, I don't have the name of it on the top of my head, but really about treating money as this spiritual practice, having, prayers around abundance, and really paying attention to the energy of money in our lives. And The Soul of Money is another good one. And then this one, I'll try to send you the name of it. But for a lot of people, they think of money as this kind of like I want nothing to do with it, and it's so not sacred, and why do we have to, have any of it? And there's really another approach of bringing it into your spiritual life as a, how do you use money to give? How do you use money to create beauty and, improve lives?
Oh, beautiful. Thank you so much. And before we go into our wrapping it up section, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to add?
Ooh. No, I think we covered it all. Yeah.
Awesome.
For now, for part one of our podcast, we can always do another. There's so much more we can cover, but this is sufficient.
I hear you on that. So I would love for you to send our listeners home with a challenge or a resource that you love, maybe even a challenge they can do this week until the next episode.
Yes, I challenge each of you to do your own weekly money ritual. Let's see. You know what? I think I'm going to give them a different challenge. Okay. I am going to challenge you to write your own letter to money. It'll take you 3 minutes. Sit down with your journal, write Dear Money, and see what comes. Just notice the emotions, notice how you're currently relating to money. Just pay attention to that. It's your one challenge. And if you want a bonus challenge after you write your letter to money, just choose who you want to be with money going forward. So what would be your new money persona if you were to write that down next?
Ooh, I love that challenge. And if people listening are actually going to do that, I would also love to hear their letters to money, or I'd love to hear what you all learn. That would be so much fun.
Absolutely. We've done this we did a boot camp once on Facebook. It's kind of like 5-day challenge. And
cool.
That was one of the exercises. And the letters that people wrote, I mean, people would start bawling in the middle of their letter. They would have these realizations. They would, just get so much clarity around how they've been relating to money. It was absolutely beautiful.
Wow. Oh, thank you for sharing. I'll do it too. So
cool.
If you want
Okay,
to
great.
do it,
Okay, good.
do it. So can you tell us again where to go to your website, and any other, where your class is located, all that good stuff?
Absolutely. So you can find everything on dowjanes.com, DOWJANES.com. And that has links to our free resources like YouTube and Instagram, and our free webinar, which is called Think Like an Investor. Definitely check that out. It's really valuable, and people learn a ton just from that. And then if you want to join the $1 Million Year, there's a page called Programs, and you can read more about the program and what's included.
Yay, amazing. Thank you so much, Britt, for coming on. We're also lucky to get your wisdom today.
Of course. It was so great to chat with you. I really love what you're doing with this podcast.
Oh, thanks.